We're going to get started in about 30 seconds, but just to remind people, people are raising their hands, especially Andrew. So you're going to want to be prepared by putting on the 2 on the drop-down menu in the chat, make sure it's directed to panelists and attendees. The first option says panelists, and if you check that one, I'm the only one that's going to see it. But if you check panelists and attendees, everybody's going to see what you're saying about tapping into life energy through laughter, sex, and beauty. And we are here today. It's Be Strong Families affirmation cards. Can you flip to the next slide? Oh, I'm not going to talk about our affirmation cards until I do the housekeeping. But I'll just tell you that we're using affirmation cards as the basis for these conversations. And it's a little bit different. It's about living the protective factors. But sometimes we neglect the energetic part of living the protective factors, that it comes down to, your spirit and how your spirit is feeling. And laughter, sex, beauty, these are things that nurture your spirit. So ways to engage. If you aren't talking, put your phone on mute. It doesn't really matter because we muted you anyway. But when you're ready to comment, and we hope you'll do this, is raise your hand. We'll unmute you, and then you'll need to unmute yourself to be heard. And the primary way we engage in these conversations is through the chat. So feel free to put anything in the chat at any time, taking into consideration these agreements that you are speaking from your own experience. You're being respectful and treating other people the way you want to be treated. We'd love it if you could just be here now. And if you agree, and if you need a minute, take a minute. We understand that you have distractions, that you're busy, that you are important people. So if you need a minute, take a minute. And just if you agree to abide by these agreements, you can do like everybody's doing and say, I agree in the chat. A few more agreeers. We'll get started. Awesome. Let's go. I think everybody, Kaylee, you want to address yours to panelists and attendees, and same thing with you, Carmen, because those are two. I'm just auditing here so that people can see what you say and not just me. Great, Bernadette, thank you. So as I was saying, our conversations, living the protective factors, is a big part of what Be Strong Families is about in terms of keeping your family strong and safe. And whether you work with families or you're here primarily for your own family, these protective factors are like the recipe, the ingredients for a healthy family, but everybody lives them differently. And we have lots of tools on our website for living them. So we have a book that's called Living the Protective Factors, How We Keep Our Children Safe and Families Strong. And then out of the book came these affirmation cards. And if you're familiar with affirmations, they're positive statements that are written in present tense. You really have to connect with the energy of it. Like, it can't be something that you don't agree with at all, but it can be something that's a little bit aspirational. Like you really want that to be, and you want to connect with the energy of what it would be if that were already happening in your life. So in terms of living the protective factors, we're going to show a few cards today from the deck and then talk about what they mean to each of us. We also have a Living the Protective Factors playbook that you can work on your own. It has like 7 weeks of activities that you can work on your own or get together a group, or can be used as the basis for a parenting class. So let's get started with conversation. So the first affirmation, or the way 44 to live the protective factors, is to laugh with your children. And the affirmation is, our family has a great time when we're together. We laugh and play and learn. We enjoy life. So my question to you is, how do you relate to this affirmation? How do you relate to this affirmation? Or what's your experience with the importance of laughter and play and learning and having a great time as a family and keeping your family strong? I'm going to say that when I adopted a child from Ethiopia when he was 8 years old, and he came into our family, and one of the key ways that I made a strong connection with him was learning what he thought was funny, like what his sense of humor was. And then I would say things that he thought were funny and or do things that he thought were funny. And it kind of helped him relax, and it helped him to feel closer to me in the early stages and throughout. That was a great way of taking off pressure, because a lot of times life is hard, and a sense of humor really helps us get through it. Christy says, I love tickling my daughter, and she told her teacher one day it's her favorite time together. So then I knew I needed to do that daily. Oh, wow. Tickling. Oof. I had, I'm sure you tickle your daughter differently than, than I was tickled, because sometimes that can be rough. But if she loves it, it's her favorite time together, keep doing what's her favorite thing, right? What else? Who else has experienced laughing and playing and great time? And how important is that? Because oftentimes it seems like building a strong family, it's like work, it's like work, it's like learning. It's like, I got to correct this, or I got to do this. So it's really, sometimes it's counterintuitive for people in this context, not in life. Like in life, we know that being relaxed and being happy and playing and laughing is positive for our mental health, for our physical health. But when we start thinking about parenting, sometimes we can forget this. We talk about how we're teaching values, or how we're, correcting negative behaviors. So what's your experience with just joy? Kaylee says, I have a 3-month-old. She's a sponge right now. I'm always smiling, laughing, and then she will. Nice. Nice. And Christina says, I think it's important to be able to enjoy the time with your children, creating good memories. Yep. And that's that focus on memories and what are the memories we're creating. Andrew says, thinking from when I was growing up, all the inside jokes my family had really took on a life of their own as we got older and kept using them. Now it's a form of humor and nostalgia. And Leah says, we laugh all the time. I make it a point to show my kids videos and pictures from memorable moments of the past. Yeah, and those family stories and that foundation of, this is our family and it's a great place to be. We enjoy it. It's just really, really important. So that's one way to live the protective factors. And it's kind of an easy way, right? Next slide. Way 13 says, be in beauty. It says, my physical surroundings are a reflection of my inner beauty. Oh, Dee says, my grown daughter and I still laugh and joke together all the time. Yeah, it's like a language, right? Humor and laughter and connection. You really feel close to someone when you're laughing with them. And then we move to beauty. We power through these things because we only have a half an hour. So we have a lot of content today, but this being in beauty. So those of you who are part of our Journey to Vitality webinar know that environmental vitality is one domain that at Be Strong Families we consider an essential part of vitality. And the idea is that what surrounds you reflects your spirit, reflects your inner beauty. So that if you are in a place that feels oppressive to you, or feels dark or dirty, or kind of cluttered to the point where it can be oppressive, and beauty nurtures your spirit. So how do you create beauty in your surroundings, in your home? Intentionally, how do you create beauty? Christina says, we go camping a lot so that my children can see the beauty of nature. Beautiful. Yeah. Because nature is naturally beauty, right? Nature is natural beauty. Those of you know that I moved from a city to kind of an ex-urban place where there's land around me. And I just think looking out the window and seeing in the summer, seeing green and seeing trees, it's just, looking up at the sky on any day, the sky is like always beautiful. It's just always there too. So that nature as beauty. But what do you do in your home? Yeah, it makes you feel relaxed and free, Christina says. Yes. And that's, I think, where you're going, Christina, is where we are in terms of this living the protective factors. This webinar is about relaxed and free being part of the spirit of having a strong family. Christy says, my mom is currently renovating and my daughter keeps saying how beautiful her home is now. So now we're decluttering her toys so her room can be pretty. LOL. That's that's nice. That's really cool that your daughter is like getting it right at a young age. She's like understanding and participating in creating beauty. Sometimes it's like posting drawings that your children did on the refrigerator. I know that when my granddaughter, can you believe I'm old enough to have a granddaughter? I can't. But my granddaughter came over and she made this picture and collage kind of thing. And she was surprised when I put it on the refrigerator. But to me, it was like that was adding beauty to the room because it was adding her spirit and her creativity to the environment. And I spent a lot of time doing this. I guess my friends say I'm a Taurus, so Tauruses are supposed to be nesters, and it's really important to me to have there be. It doesn't have to be expensive either. It's kind of like, but to have it feel beautiful. Like when I walk out, when I walk into my bedroom, like how do I create little oases? Or in previous webinars, people have talked about creating little meditation corners or little like just reflection corner where there's just a little place of peace, under the stairs or in a closet. Dee says, I love planting flowers. I have fresh roses in the home. Just got the house painted too. Took down old pics and plan to put up pics from a recent vacation. Nice. Christina says, I just painted the living room, the sky blue color. So as a family, when we watch movies or play family games, the color brings a calmness to all of us. Beautiful. One home I lived in when I was young, I painted the floor. This is before people did that. I painted the floor like a deep midnight blue and put silver stars on it so that I would feel like I was walking in a night sky. My bedroom. I was young. Sometimes it's like, I'm surprised when people renovate homes. Sometimes these days they're all painting everything gray, the same color. Like the people who came to when I first moved in here and were painting, and I picked different colors for different rooms, and they were like, it gave them joy to do the painting actually, because they said we're so bored of gray. Everybody's doing gray everywhere. I'm not dissing anybody who's doing gray, by the way. I did use gray in some of my rooms, but there is that feeling of being able to be creative. I think beauty is also related to creativity and being able to be creative and to think outside the box. That also adds to the freedom. Like if you're living in a box and everything is, like solid and set and rigid, and it's not adding to your feeling of freedom and relaxation, kind of think, how can I get out of this box? And Leah says, I found my kids oftentimes look to keeping their rooms clean as a chore just to keep me happy. Yep, that's what I did when I was a kid. I make it a point to include my children in their room decoration process so that they take pride and feel good about their surroundings versus it being a chore. We all take part in decorating our home, and I teach my family we're the foundation of the home. I teach them without a family to bring our home to life, it's just a building. Oh, I love that, Leah. And I love it not being, it's like, to the focus instead of clean up your room, which is let's make your room look beautiful again. Let's decorate your room. How will we decorate your room? And just because it does reflect, it is like a reflection, like a mirror of what's going on inside, or it can be. I know when my office is really messy, it is a reflection. I just note it and I think it's a reflection of my mind being a little bit messy. I have arguments about this with a guy who's our COO because he's a clutter person and he says that's not true. But for me, it's true. I don't find clutter calming. Some people do find clutter calming. I don't find clutter calming. Yeah, Christina says, I have to try that because I'm always like, clean your room, and I get stressed when they don't. Yep. And as a kid, I remember hearing my mom say, clean up your room. And it is kind of like, it was kind of like a resistance or a power thing, I think, in retrospect, of me not wanting to clean up my room because she wanted me to clean up my room. And how can you be on the same team with regard to the beauty of your space, like, and how can you pitch in to help make the space more beautiful, you know I love what we were saying, what Leah was saying about it being a family activity. Yeah, and stress, like, that's kind of what this Living the Protective Factors webinar is all about, is relaxation and freedom are the opposite of stress, right? So this is like, how do you do things, or how do you adjust things in your environment to make it so that your stress is reduced? Because when your stress is reduced, I mean, I'm a big, I don't know if any of you have heard of Yoga Nidra. We've done some webinars on Yoga Nidra, but it's like basically deep relaxation, and you get into a state of consciousness. It's very healing. It's kind of like that place between wakefulness and sleep. And it's just like being relaxed. Like, think about lying in a hammock doing nothing. Or yesterday I went outside and there's a swing in my yard, and I just like sat on the swing and looked at the sky. In those moments when you're just relaxed and doing nothing, that's when creativity comes in. That's when stress is draining away. And that's what I was saying, like, building a strong family isn't always work. Sometimes it's just like relaxing into the beautiful, natural, loving, peaceful, joyful core of you. Let's go to the next slide, because we're going to talk about sex. We promised we'd talk about sex. Somebody's got to raise their hand. So, Christina's going to say, I like to cook with my kids so that not only am I teaching them new things, the kitchen is my happy place. Yeah, I resonate with that too, Christina. So now we're on to sex, the kitchen and sex. So the way is express freedom through sex. And I think the key of this way is that, sex can put you in touch with a feeling of freedom and expansion and joy and connection that is really positive for your life. So it says, I enjoy my sexual nature and I express it in healthy ways that bring pleasure, delight, exhilaration, and contentment into my life. So, I mean, in Kundalini yoga that I'm a teacher of, it's like, and Freud also went here in psychology, which is libido, or sexual energy, is kind of life energy. It's vitality. So it's not about always just like having sex, or it's about sexual nature. It's about sensuality. It's about your relationship with yourself, but really valuing and manifesting pleasure, delight, exhilaration, and contentment in your life in simple ways, and embodying it, feeling your body engaged, because so often we separate from our bodies and go into our minds, or or think about spirituality as being out there. But how you can kind of link your mind, body, and spirit together and be in this place of pleasure, delight, exhilaration, contentment, joy. So who wants to talk about sex? Nobody's raising their hand. Nobody's raising their hand. What do you think about this idea that part of living the protective factors involves your own connection to your sexuality, and a positive connection? I'm not talking about like, it can be addictive, and not positive. I mean, sex is not only positive, but what do you think about actually your own connection to your sexuality and your sexual nature being part of living the protective factors? little fact. Oh, I would talk about it, but I'm not grasping the concept. Okay. Well, we can talk about also, like, one of the things I thought of to say is that in touch is very, Christy says touch is very important. So with COVID, it's been difficult not to hug family members. So I would show my love with gifts. Here we're talking about just like sexuality and sensuality and the pleasure, delight, exhilaration, contentment that you feel in the moment. Like, I don't know, post-orgasm, that really about like sexuality being a core part of and a positive part of human experience if you express it in positive ways. I was thinking that in one of the really, I'm Jewish and I was Orthodox for like 10 years. And it was a mitzvah, which is a positive commandment, to have sex with your husband on Shabbat, which is the Sabbath. And when you look into the Gemara about this, like what the rabbi said about it, it wasn't for procreation. It was because sex is understood to be intimacy in the context, in Judaism, in the context of marriage. And I think this is true in other religions as well. It's understood as being a intimacy, sexual intimacy is understood as being like a real way of communicating and of cementing and expressing love and connection. So Christina says, having children is hard because you always have to be careful, but I try to have everyone out of the house at least once or twice a month so that me and myself can have our own alone time to enjoy each other. You need that stress relief sometimes. Yes. And that's what we're talking about. What about sex as stress relief? What about sex as stress relief? Like the energy that builds up in the body. And it's like, just it's a very quick way. And for those of you, I mean, I don't want to like shock people, but it doesn't always have to be with a partner either. Just to let loose. Yes, that's why, Christina, you're on my vibe. It's like laughter and what do these things have in common? Laughter, beauty, sex. It's like about life energy and letting loose. There's ecstasy too. I'm not talking about the drug ecstasy. I'm saying being ecstatic. Sometimes people get there through dancing. Like, you can put on, and I would say that that's part of like enjoying your sexual nature. Like if you are dancing, like your body is moving, you can get yourself to heightened states of awareness. It's not like sex, but it is like energetically, it is kind of doing some of the same things. Some people can get there with yoga and meditation too. But it's like one of the main yogis said that, life is a constant orgasm, if you're living in a spiritual connection. Christy says, yes, yoga has helped so much. So it's like in yoga, you're one of the things that you're intentionally doing is raising your kundalini or your life energy, which is also understood as sexual energy, from the base of your spine through your whole body. So you're connecting your life energy, your vitality throughout all your cells. So anyway, it's something to think about. And if it's not connecting with you, if it's not like resonating with you, sometimes it's also just, it'll rattle around. Most relations start with sex, so you can't lose it later. Interesting. Yes. And Leah says, I think it's important to identify what your sexual needs are. Also, I think you get so stuck on taking care of the daily routines of life. I put my needs on the back burner. Yeah. And I think that's part of what this webinar is about, is like, it's needs, but it's also like you put your vitality on the back burner. Like you forget to think, or sometimes I can forget that, part of my birthright, part of like who I am and what's positive for me to do is to like be joyful, be full of positive energy. And you can't mandate yourself to be full of positive energy if your life is dragging you down. So how do you find ways in the context of a busy life with lots of obligations to get yourself free to get yourself connected to your source and to your life energy. So that's, I think, what sexual energy is part of that. Laughter is part of that. You know, Dee says, you have to relax and have fun. I just went to a meeting and it ended up with them giving bedroom candy website. Oh, we might want to share that website. I've never heard of that. Yeah, and Christina says, yes, and that's where the stress builds up. Sometimes you have to put you first. Yeah, and self first is not selfish. You know, it's like when you think about it, if you are calm and relaxed and happy and peaceful and joyful and loving, and you're putting out that energy, you are blessing everyone you meet, you know, because they're seeing your smile, they're feeling your energy, they're connecting to that possibility for themselves. And I think that's like a magic. Let's go to the next slide, Andrew, because we only have 5 more minutes. And finally, this is where you all are going to, is take a break for self-love. I give myself permission to briefly detach from stressful situations and give myself an emotional hug. So we were talking about stress and your needs and honoring your needs. And again, in this suggestion or this way of living the protective factors, it doesn't have to be a whole work program like take a break for self-love, like I have to arrange a spa day and, you know, get my nails done. You can, but, you know, get my massage or, you know, like totally make a whole program out of it. It's also can be like when you're in the midst of something very stressful, just giving yourself permission to briefly detach. Briefly. If you need a minute, take a minute. Go to the bathroom. Shake it out. But just give yourself a hug and say, hey, it's not that serious. Because sometimes what happens is we click into and get attached to stressful situations so that we don't, and we don't give ourselves any breathing room. So this webinar is about breathing room. It's about just, you know, finding ways to create space and create, like, you ever see the Wrinkle in Time, the Tesseract idea, which is you start here and you end here, but you can have a whole experience there. Like that's what the concept is. So how do you give yourself those spaces between moments? And Andrew said, I did this yesterday evening. I did some house cleaning after work and briefly detached from everything afterwards to give myself a moment. Yes, give yourself a moment. Who else besides Andrew has given themselves a moment recently? And what do you do in that moment? Christina says, I try to end my day with some nice music playing and a nice hot bubble bath. Yeah, I try to end my day with meditation before I go to sleep. Like at least 15 minutes of just kind of sitting and breathing. Fitbit recommends it, by the way, too, if you wear a Fitbit. An adult timeout. Yes, Leah, an adult timeout, LOL. Yes. And also just to realize that sometimes when you're locked into a stressful situation, it feels like life and death. It feels like you have to be there, like you have no choice. And if you just take a woosah, you know, just take a breath and say, okay, I feel my body tensing up. I feel myself clicked in. I feel my breathing getting shallow. I feel like myself like poised. How do I just detach from that? And as I said, shake it out or breathe a minute so that when you go back, it's not the same energy. It's not the same urgency. Okay, Christy says, coffee and wine with my coffee. I take deep breaths in and practice mindfulness. Then my wine, I do the same thing. Nice. And Andrew says he listens to favorite songs or albums. Sometimes I want to be intentional with that by selecting a song that's very specific to one point in my life. It reminds me of the person I used to be while also being grateful of the person I've become since then. And Dee says, listen to Marc Antoine every day. Very soothing to get my day going. Yes, and these little rituals are critical. And in addition to the rituals, this one, the taking a break for self-love, whenever you're feeling like, just maybe just try this today, tomorrow, over the weekend, whenever you're feeling stressed or you're feeling locked into a situation or you're feeling pressure, just detach, just get away from it for a minute and see what a difference it makes. All right, we're at the end of our time, so I'm just going to remind you about the upcoming webinars. Tomorrow there's a cafe, and then next week, all of August, we're going to be giving you tastes of the workshops that Be Strong Families offers. And next week, the theme is parent engagement through a lens of equity. And the idea here is how building equity into a family support program or a family serving program can really assist with building strong relationships with the families that are served and becoming a really a community resource. And Christina says she'll be here. Andrew can't wait. And these affirmation cards, if you've liked these webinars with the affirmations, they're available on our website. Feel free to pick up a set for yourselves and any of the other Living the Protective Factors resources. So appreciate you all. Take care. Have a great day. Rest of your day. Lots of love.